We're back with another video about Race Manager. This time we wanted to focus specifically on the initial UI that you would see and be able to interact with after you've installed the application. So once you have completed the setup, you have launched Race Manager, most likely from your desktop icon that you've created during the installation. You can open your browser and you can browse, assuming you've left the defaults, you can browse to localhost 8080, whatever you've changed this to. Right now we're kind of looking at, remember I talked about in the setup video that there are really two sides to Race Manager. There is the leaderboard, which is really a public facing side that anybody can come and see. They can pick a session, they can pick a rotation, and then once there's some data in the system, you would see the result down here and be able to interact with them and sort them and filter them and be able to understand some of the performances for the different race nights that you've had. Right now we don't have any race data. At the end of this video, we're going to set up some actual sessions. We're going to go do some racing. Then we're going to come back and we'll actually see this data and be able to interact with what I'm talking about. So again, on this particular part of the system, anybody would be able to see this. Well, at least anybody that would be able to access the web page, which by default is just running most likely on your local network. So the other option is managed server, which does require an administrator. That's kind of the area we're focused on right now. So you will need to log in up here on the top right hand corner if you've not done that. The default was admin for the admin user, and then whatever password you set up during that initial installation. Once you've logged in here, and you click on this manage server button, you'll be over here to actually spend, this is where you spend most of your time from an administrator's point of view. The first thing to talk about is like, what is a session, right? So basically you can think of sessions as like a race series, and you can have many different rotations inside of it. So the example I set up during the initial demo, we'll just pick back up there. You have Friday night races, right? So maybe you have a group of friends that you race with on Friday nights, and maybe you want a series of different rotations so that you're not doing the same exact tracks or cars or weather every single time. So you can customize rotations and you can swap these in and out. So you could decide, hey, tonight we don't want to do my first rotation, we want to do this other one I've created. This feature will get even better once we support custom rotations, where you can actually sort of manually or graphically here build out the ability to pick your weather or customize the specific car you want to use and those pieces. But for now, we've out of the gate have just focused on just a fun random rotation generator, so you can add as many of those as you want into here, and we've kind of allowed you to pick some preferences in here. Also, one more note on the custom rotations. Even though we don't currently support them directly through the UI at this time, you can actually still create them through our APIs that we provide with the server. And we actually do include a whole sample set of F1 series races that we've created based on another resource. I'll cover this a little bit at the end of the video. Well, let's jump back into the generation for now. So we'll go ahead and show that again. So let's assume that Friday night races, we have our first rotation. We've gotten a little bit bored of that. Maybe we've raced this one once or twice with our friends. We want a different rotation. So basically right here, we can say we want to do an add rotation. And right now, as I said, limited set of options for what you can actually do. But based on these inputs that you're getting in here, it's gonna generate a brand new rotation for you on the back end. So you can start by saying, what do you want to call this rotation? Again, the name on this is gonna make more sense later when you can sort of customize the rotation. But for now, it's just a random rotation. So I'm just gonna stick with, we'll call this one my second rotation. And maybe we want this one to be, you can go anywhere between 1 and 32 races on these. So maybe we just want this one to be an easy 5 races. Generally, we don't like to race with carts, so we turn off carts. This also has the byproduct of, if you have turned off carts, then you're not likely to get a randomly generated track that is a cart track, right? So it's smart enough to understand that. Now these next two options, persist and restart, let's cover those. So persist is effectively saying you want to save this rotation into the database and keep it inside of Race Manager. Generally, the answer is yes. That's why it's the default. Basically, the idea here is that later, sort of in the future you would be able to share these rotations, with the community once you've created them and you enjoy them. And so one of the options could be that you just want to generate a rotation, you want to customize it, but then maybe you just want to post that rotation somewhere else for sharing purposes. You don't actually want to save that one into your local database. But generally speaking, you want to leave persist so that it does save in here and it does become an option for you to be able to switch rotations in the UI later. And this last one basically is, do you want to restart the server after I add this rotation? This just a little bit of warning here. Sometimes this does not actually work. It's a little bit of a race condition when it tries to restart the server. It's something we're currently fixing. But if you encounter this bug, you could just click this update server button behind the scenes. So if you don't see the new rotation taking effect after you've added the rotation and left to restart, that's the recommended workaround for now. We're going to say go ahead and add rotation. And this will take a second because it is actually generating that rotation. And because we said persist, it's going to actually save that into Automobilista 2's dedicated server directory, and it's going to actually replace the rotation file there. So, that's step one, is to do that. With that new file in place, restart the server for those changes to get picked up. Okay, so let's revisit this idea of sessions and rotations. First thing I want to call out here is these are two independent entities, if you will. Again, as it says here in this is text, a session is like a race series. And so maybe you have a group of friends that you race with on a Friday night. And then you have another group of friends that you do on a Wednesday or a Saturday. Some breakdown in trying to group a different set of races at a higher level, right? You can think of that as a session, right? And currently you think of a session in the actual game as being like an individual session where you sit down, you do a few races with your friends, and off you go, right? So then the next time you come in, it's like a whole new event. The rotation can stay the same for as long as you want it to be before you change the rotation. But effectively, you're either manually picking tracks or you're playing the same rotation, and there's no way to associate like multiple game nights together, right? So that's one of the big benefits you're going to get out of Race Manager. That's this idea of a session, right? So you create this, and then you can use that for that bounding layer for however you want to use it. Or something like we commonly use it for would be different race nights with different groups of friends. And then the rotations, right, are the pre-existing entity or object within Automobilista 2 itself. This defines, again, the set of cars, tracks, weather, right? So you get that ability to do the customization, but effectively you have to manage that through a file. On the file system, you have to restart the server. And then if you want multiple rotations, you kind of need to keep multiple copies here and then be able to swap them in and out manually. So you're getting a nice graphical interface on top of that here, with the ability to also now relate whatever rotation you want with a particular session, right? So my second rotation isn't bound to a particular session. I could choose to say, hey, it's Saturday night. I want all the races that I'm about to do tonight bound to this particular session. And you know what? Tonight we're actually going to do, my rotation 2, or we're going to say my first rotation. So we're going to pick which one it is. So maybe, tonight is GT car night. When you pick these two things, you do need to hit update server once you've made a change here, right? So basically what's going to happen is that it's going to actually write the rotation file off to the file system in the location that Automobilista 2 is looking for it. So it'd be like if you replace it manually. And then it's going to restart the server to pick up those latest changes, because it does require, that's pretty standard with Automobilista 2 in general, that when you change configuration, you must restart the server to get it picked up. And we're going to go ahead and demonstrate that, right? So if we jump down here, remember this is our Race Manager a server console. It is outputting that it's processing once a second. It hasn't found any new events, which makes sense because we're not actively racing. But when we do toggle the server to this new rotation, you will see an event pop through here, right? So if I hit update server, just to show you that, we'll jump back here. And right there. So you see this says the cache rotation was deleted, so the previous rotation file was removed. It wrote off the new one, and then it did a restart of the game server. That was all successful, and you'll see right here that it was restarting it. And then our cycle begins again, where it's now looking for new race data, right? And any new race data that would come in from this point forward would be associated with this particular session and this particular rotation, at least until you've changed these and restarted the server yet again. All right, well, for the sake of this demo, let's get down and show some racing and see what the data collection actually looks like. So we've pre-created yet another session in here we call the F1 League. And in here we have a bunch of Formula One series rotations. Right now it's just one. I'm going to demo how you can add some more based on what we've created. You already know how to create your own based on the rest of this video. I'm going to go ahead and set this here. We'll update the server. Let's go do some racing and we'll come back. Okay, at this point we've been racing for a few minutes. You see that we're at the Spielberg track. Just to finish qualifying, heading into the actual race. Sped up just so you don't have to be watching for too much longer here. And we're going to come to the end of the race here in just about a second. Here's going to see the results screen. And then we're going to pop back to the lobby where you'll see that the next track selection is in play. You can see here that it's Spa-Francorchamps. Last iterations of each track ended up and show you the third track of the rotation. Just about over. And there we are. So at the end here, it's going to pop us back to the lobby one last time. And you'll see that the next race up was Monza at this point. Let's head back to the UI. Okay, so now we're back in the Race Manager UI. If you recall, right before we jumped into the actual race, we had selected the F1 League session, and we had picked the Formula Ultimate Gen 2 rotation. Right, the idea here would be we'd have a ton of different rotations of Formula One. What I'll show later is, basically just different eras of Formula One. We attached them all into F1, and so it's an easy way to associate all these different rotations with that session. Let's go ahead and take a look at this particular rotation, though. If you recall in that video, I mentioned we've been racing for a while before we started that recording. And the first race that we actually jumped into there in the video was Spielberg, right? If you recall, after we wrapped up Spielberg, we jumped right into Spa-Francorchamps. And then right before, right as we saw Monza pop up, we ended that recording, right? So these three entries are in the order that we saw in the video, so that confirms that the rotation was right. And now let's jump to the real thing, right? So we're all doing this so we can improve our time, so we can see how we stack up against our friends. That's what this is all about. So now that we've done that, remember, we are recording this information. We're capturing that race data once every second, as we saw in the console earlier. So if we jump over to the leaderboard, this is where you can visualize in these tables all the different race data that you have, right? And this is historical now. Remember that the log file by default that you get with Automobilista is being rotated off every so many entries, and there's no like long-term historical context. What we're doing here is collecting that all into the long-term database, giving easy access to query that information. And that's basically what you're now seeing here live, right? So this defaults to the latest race that we had or the active session. So that's that F1 League Formula Ultimate Generation, Gen 2. Now we have you can see it tracks like session leaders. It caps the top 5. You can, of course, go and show more. These are now the AI and the humans, right? So in our case, we're racing with 2 humans, and we've filled the rest of the grid with AI to make it competitive, right? You can denote the humans from the AI by the fact that the humans are bolded out. And then over the course of the rotations, you're going to get lots of interesting statistics, right? How many races did they race in? How many wins? What place? How many second, thirds, podiums they had? How many pole positions they got for fastest lap? Uh, and then it's going to keep track of the total points. Now, I will call out here that when you fill a race with AI, it's not consistent. It's not always the same 10 drivers and the same 10 liveries. That would be great if Automobilista supported that. Do believe that there is an option to do this in a local setup, but from what I can figure out, it doesn't work so well when you're doing like a multiplayer dedicated server option. But In the future, this would be amazing so that you had a consistent series over time. But if you're racing with a lot of people, less important, and obviously it's more important to beat your friends than it is the computer anyway. So if we jump down to the race summary, you're going to get this is each track, right? And we recorded 5 tracks in total here. And you're going to get this, similar statistics, right? You're going to see like when that race actually took place, how many total cars were on there, how many laps, what the AI strength was capped at the time. Again, who took pole, fastest lap, and winner, which helps make up these statistics up top. Again, you'll get this bolded, non-bolded indicator to show if it was the human or not the human. But again, just to confirm, this right now is sorted in descending order, right? So it's the most recent race that occurred, which again we stopped right at Monza. The race hadn't actually occurred yet, so that was that Spa Francorchamps, and then the previous race of that was Spielberg, right? So um, that's it for now. So I hope you like this. If you're interested in custom rotations, then jump over to the next video where we talk about how to use the API directly, and we show off the Postman collection that we include with the server. And in that video, we will actually talk about and demonstrate creating a whole bunch of custom F1 rotations. That's it for now. Thanks.